Well, we've reached it. It's 2023, and boy, was 2022 an absolute roller coaster. Yes, it was. And it comes to housing and buying and selling, boy, was it a nightmare. You had people paying well above $50,000 to $100,000 just to buy a home above asking price. To now, we have some of the lowest sales records that we've had since 2014. What the heck happened? Why did it happen? Dr. Lawrence Yun, who is an economist with the National Association of Realtors, goes over this information, and I find it very insightful. Now, is it fun? Is it sexy? Not really, no. But we're going to have some fun with it, and I think if you pay attention, he's going to go over some items, and at the very end, I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks that I think will help you purchase a home or sell a home for the very highest amount when you're selling and the very lowest amount when you're buying in 2023. All right, the economic and real estate outlook for 2023. Dr. Lawrence Yun, who is the Chief Economist and Senior Vice President for Research for the National Association of Realtors. That is the place where all realtors that are called that are associated. And as realtors, we get a lot of outlook as to what's happening and what has happened. So we're going to talk a little bit about what has happened, and we're going to talk a little bit about what is most likely going to happen. And I'll probably make some mistakes along the way and say some things that you're going to disagree with. And that's okay. I want to hear down in the comments, say, Jason, you're out of your mind, brother. You aren't seeing what I'm seeing. Here's what I'm seeing. Because truth be told, we all want to grow and understand this market better. The more that I know, the better real estate agent I can be for you. So if you know something I don't, if you're an economist or you have some insight into the lending side, I would love to know more. Hit me down in the comments. Subscribe if you do that. Give me a like so at least I can, try to find a client to help them with your information. Yeah, let's give it a shot. What do you think? We'll try. All right, so existing. Man, right off the bat, I backed up. And annual existing home sales are down 16%. It's nothing to laugh about. It sucks, okay? The course of 2022, it went down like a airplane that was going into the ocean, okay? 16% down from the previous year. But we had an enormous growth in 2021, so there had to be some, just not as much. So what in the world could have caused that? Well, let's look and see when it happened. It started in January of 2022. We were doing great. Then in February, everything went to poop. I mean, it just went. Interest rates. It's all explained by interest rates. And interest rates went up because inflation went through the roof. And no matter what they're telling you and how they sell you on this, inflation is insane right now. They're starting to tell you stuff like, well, it only changed by a certain percent month over month. Well, that's not how they used to explain inflation. They used to explain inflation year over year. So you have 12 months of cycle, and they're trying to tell you what it's doing in 1 month. That's not how it works, guys. They're trying to sell you something. I'm not in the business of sales. I know you think that real estate agents are salespeople. I'm not. I'm here to guide you through the process of buying and selling. Ultimately, it's up to you to buy and sell. And the only way to do that is with the best information. That's why I'm giving you this today. All right. So what does that mean? Let's talk about COVID and what happened and why we are where we are. All right. Pre-COVID, everything's fairly normal as far as sales percent, right? You have some influx and outflux. Things are slowly, they move kind of like this, right? Well, when we hit COVID, you can see right there at the beginning, that March, April, May timeframe, everything just shoots through the floor. People were like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in my house. And you were probably one of those. Most likely, you're following me. I know, you can see where my brain's going. It's scary. I know it's scary, but we were all sitting in our house going, dude, this floor is awful. My kids are going to drive me absolutely insane. I hate my job. I hate my job. Being on a Zoom call one more day with my kids running around behind me, I'm going to lose my crap. You know what I could use is a pool. All these things were happening March, April, May, and then everybody went, if I'm going to be stuck in my home, by gosh, I'm going to be stuck in a nice home. If I'm going to be stuck in that state, I'm going to be stuck in another state because that state is way too restrictive when it comes to the COVID rules. And here we go. The roller coaster started happening. Woo, 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 woo. And then 2022 hits and what? Inflation, interest rates going through the roof and making these mortgage rate bottom out the sales. I think that's how you say it. It's probably not. If I said that wrong, let me know. I think I did. Whatever, it's fine. So annual new home sales, they're down 17% in 2022 from the pre-COVID levels. What does this mean? Well, it's a pendulum swing. We talk about that where if it goes one way, it's got to go back the other to balance it out. We want a balanced market. And the only way to balance a market is to come off of those highs. And sometimes coming off those highs, you have to come off a little bit further because they went up so much. This line right here, as we move up, it has this breakdown in 2008, right? Where the median home price comes down and then it slowly works its way up in cycles. These cycles are based on the buying season. This tip each time is going to be the summer buying season. And then in January, it shoots all the way back down, works its way all the way up through summer, and then works its way back down into January. And we do that all the way up until we get to COVID. And then it just turns into the scariest roller coaster on the planet all the way up to 2022. And then we had the biggest drop that we've seen since 14, okay? Why is that important? Well, as you can see, it has to come back down. The good news is this is something that needed to happen. We had way too much growth right here. That inflationary growth, some of that was real, and a lot of it was, oh my gosh, I have got to get out of this state. Oh my gosh, I have to have a new home. I have all this equity in my house now. I can go ahead and use it. I just want to get into this house now. I don't want to be stuck in my house doing Zoom calls, listening to my kids, making sure that I have food on the table and I don't even have a kitchen big enough to... I'm just going crazy today. I should calm down. I'm going to calm down, guys. How's this voice for you? Is this a little bit better? Well, the U.S. median home price. I don't even talk like that. I'm not going to. All right. So Austin median home price. Why is this important? Because Austin was the epicenter of the California movement during COVID. And boy, did they pay out the nose for houses, right? It shot through the roof. I was talking with a few of my realtor friends, and some of them were telling me on some of those houses, they were paying well above $200,000 above asking price to get a house. And some of those people weren't getting them. They were making offers that far above with no inspection, nothing, and they weren't getting the house. That is insane. That is not a market you want to buy in. It's not a market you want to be a real estate agent in. Can you imagine? I want you to think about it. Put yourself in our shoes. We go to the buyer and we say, guys, look, I know that they're asking $500,000 on this house, but in order for you to get this, I'm going to go ahead and need you to make an offer for $580,000. Oh, and by the way, you're not going to be able to inspect it to find out if there's anything wrong with it. So I didn't do that. I couldn't do it. And that made my home sales go, woo, all the way down to the floor. I went on my own roller coaster in 2022 because I refused to play this game because I don't think it's healthy. It's not healthy. All right? We're back into a healthier market. It's not fun, but it is important. Guys, for you as sellers, you want to get a fair market value for your home. Obviously, we want to get you the most for your home. but we want to make sure that it's healthy enough that you can go buy another house. And for a lot of people, they sold their house in this big, huge market, and they went and put themselves in an RV until it calmed down again. And it looks like they're going to win on this. A lot of people, they did the right thing, but a lot of people didn't, and they paid too much for their home. Now, for those of you who paid more than asking, chances are you're going to be just fine, okay? Because the market is going to continue to rise, just not at the pace it was before. So it's going to take a little bit longer to get your equity back out of your house, but that's okay, all right? What was the difference, right? What was the difference? 2008 and 2023. Are we going to see the same thing happen 23, 24, and 25? Let's talk a little bit about the differences, because this is important. Dr. Yoon goes through this. The last housing cycle, the job cuts that we had. Oh my gosh, we were just cutting jobs really, really quickly. So there's a lot right there. The 153 to 130 million, 158 to 138 million on the total jobs, which is important because if you don't have a job, you can't pay your rent. You can't. No one can. Okay? Subprime loans was the biggest change that they made from 2008 to now. And what that did was this predatory lending that was happening back in the early 2000s, late 90s, that all went away. And if a person gets a loan now, it's because they earned that ability to get that loan, most likely. So that really comes down to the inventory on market now. We have way less inventory on market than we did in 2008. There was all these houses for sale because they were being foreclosed on a regular basis. We had 4.6% in foreclosure, and now we have 0.6%. So it's a different world. Can it get worse? Yes, it can. Do we think it's going to get like 2008? No. And it's because of the things that they did. You know, sometimes government can make some really important changes, and this is where they took the ball and they ran with it, and they made some very important, good decisions when it came to lending practices, so that we didn't have this horrible thing that were happening to people where they were paying 4% and then they'd get to the balloon payment and suddenly they're paying 26% on a home loan. There's no way they can afford it. No one stopped them from doing it until after 2008 when the crash happened. Mortgage delinquency, even in the biggest portion of the COVID lockdown, it wasn't as high as it was in 2009, where we just had mortgages going through the roof as far as being behind. Distressed home sales, this is something you as investors, if you're an investor, it's tough out there. It's tough. There's not these flippable homes that there were back in 2010, 2011, it just didn't exist anymore. And it's been hard. I have several investors. We look constantly, but they are hard to come by. You have to be really good at your game in order to do that. There are some states that are doing better than others. And so if you look at the payroll job additions from the pre-COVID era, you look at the state of Texas and Florida, they're really just staying on track. And it's traditionally been that way, even for the last 4 or 5 decades. Texas, the Republic of Texas, yes, the only state in the United States that was its own country, and we still believe it is so, just so you know. So let's talk about this. This is important. Austin or Salt Lake City. What happened in Austin was insane. Prices went through the roof. Everybody was moving there, especially from California. They wanted something that was more attuned to how they live their life. A very good place to live was Austin because it's weird. There's a lot of weird people in Austin. So which one's next? If you look, Dallas-Fort Worth, which is where Innovate Real Estate Group does most of its business, is number 3 on the list of most likely to happen. And it's because of so many companies and corporations that are moving here from other states, and they see the value. We have a huge metroplex area. You have Dallas and Arlington and Fort Worth that are available here. And so when you're looking at it, it's like, man, there's so much room, and yet you're fairly close. You're within 45 minutes of DFW Airport, just about everywhere you would want to be in the DFW Metroplex. So you have easy access to sports, to entertainment. It's a great place to live. All right, mortgage rate forecast. This is what I want to talk to you guys about as we begin to wrap up this video. Where are we headed? 2022, obviously a nightmare. Dallas-Fort Worth is still continuing to grow. It's the top 3 of what's going to continue to have growth. What does that mean for you as a buyer? Well, the forecast says that it's most likely going to come down as far as the rates are concerned. We've seen it in December. We're hoping that the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter will put it below 6% on those prime values. Now, anybody who tells you this, hey man, I know for a fact as a real estate agent that there is going to be 4%. You don't have to worry about it. You know what you need to do right now? You need to buy the house, date the rate, marry the house, date the rate. I already talked about that. Date the rate, date the rate. That's the most absurd statement I've ever heard. It sounds sexy, but it isn't true. When you buy a house, you are married to that rate. The only way to get out of that rate is if the rate plummets down far enough to make it worthwhile for you to pay the extra payments you have to pay to lower that rate back down later. Okay? Now, do we think that's going to happen? Yes. But you shouldn't buy and sell based on something you can date when you can't date a rate. I'm going to get off my high horse there. It gets me all kind of wired up. All right? So there's no way to know. You know, Joe does not know. I call him Joe Snark. Joe Snark does not know whether those rates are going to come down for sure. The only thing we can do is forecast it. And that's what this is doing. This is a forecast of what they think is going to happen with the rate. So as a buyer, there's a good chance that as we enter into the season of buying, which is mid-February to late February, we're going to see those rates continuing to come down. So if you've been waiting, maybe you were up in that 7.5% to 8% range, you might look at it again in the first quarter and see if the rates have come down enough to make it worthwhile for you. We can definitely talk about that, okay? All right, so the home sales forecast, again, it's going to continue to rise. Will it rise at the rate it was before? No. But it is going to continue to rise because people are still moving, and they're going to continue to still move because we need more housing. We already know that. The price growth forecast, they think it's going to remain flat. It's going to remain flat. So what you're seeing as far as prices, they're probably not going to come down too much. You can see that in quarter 2. They do come down a little bit, but that's just a recalibration of what was going on in that high spot of the situation. So the annual forecast, I don't want to get in too much detail here, but you can see the unit sales and how much they went down compared to the home price going up, right? So in the 2023 forecast, we're going to continue to see unit sales come down from those points it was in 2021, but the home price is not going to increase anymore, according to the forecast that we're seeing. All right, guys, I'm going to give you a few tips. So you sellers, where are you at right now? Well, if you don't already have your house on the market and you're thinking about it, there's some things that'll help you. First, don't go looking down the street at Sally's place that was for sale for $575,000 back in the summer, and she sold it, and so that's what I want for my house. First of all, you're setting yourself up for failure because those prices are not there. That was an inflated market, okay? And so you need to talk with an agent anyway, because these sites that tell you, oh, it was for sale for this, that doesn't mean it sold for that. Just because it says sold and then it has a price next to it, that doesn't mean that's what it sold for. We can look that price up for you, talk to you about that number. Ultimately, it really comes down to this. What are people willing to pay you for your home? Plain and simple, okay? If you will get that in your mind, listen to your agent and help them to do a very best job for you by letting them show you. We want to show you, here's the comparative places here, and we know that there's a little bit of a dive in the price range until we get into the buying season, which is around March. So if you need to sell right now, you may have to take a little less, but you're not going to be having to pay for those months that you're waiting for the house to sell. Okay? So, sellers, 2 years is going to be the marker point for you. And the reason why is because that's when your equity is no longer considered capital gains, which means all that equity can be used to purchase another home. You could put it all on black if you want to. If that's your jam, go for it, man. That's awesome. I wouldn't do it personally, but hey, you do you. All right? Wait 2 years if you can. If you're needing to buy or sell, if you're needing to buy a house because you need to move to another area or whatever, take that into account. Maybe you don't make as much money on your home right now, but you get where you need to go. And you can negotiate that price just like anybody else who's negotiating prices in this market as well. So if you have a good real estate agent, you can take that equity, put it into another home, and let yourself grow through that home where you're going to be for a very long time. All right? Buyers, where are we at? Buyers, here's the thing. You're not having to pay $50,000 over asking, especially for you first-time buyers. Guys, you've been waiting around, you made all those offers, you got worn out, and now you're in a position where you've got a little bit of buying power. And we can take that and get you into a home and make sure that you are building equity in the house that you're wanting to purchase, right? And especially, I would say this for you buyers, new home sales, that's where it's at right now. They have all these houses that they spec home, what they call it, they spec it out and then they build it and they hope somebody buys it. They're sitting and they've been sitting on the market, some of them over a year, trying to sell those things and they can't. So they need to sell those homes and they're giving all kinds of incentives. For you first-time home buyers, you're getting closing costs. There's a lot of incentives for you as a buyer on these new homes as well. So that would be a little tip I would give you is take a look at new home sales. Now, the big thing there is you want to make sure that you have somebody representing you. Remember, if you're buying directly from a builder, they're representing themselves and they do this every day. You do not. You want somebody on your side. And the builder is the one that pays for the agent to do the work for you. So it's never a bad thing. You want to make sure you have a good agent that's going to represent you even in the new home sales section of a purchase. All right. Well, there you have it. That's the forecast for 2023. That's the haunted house that is probably going to happen, which means the reason why is you're going to have to change your mindset. It's no longer, I'm going to put something on the market. It's going to sell in 3 days. Let's go find something else. It's not going to be, I have to put in 14 offers before I buy a home. Nope. We've come back to reality, and reality is a good thing.